Can we all agree that ARMS is a terrible name for a video game? It kinda goes two ways, really. On the one hand, when I told my parents that I was traveling into London to take part in some ARMS showcase and Nintendo invited me to something I called going to play this ARMS game, my parents thought I was going arm wrestling. Then again, I reckon video games would be more entertaining if they were more basically titled. We'd have ARMS and Plumber and fun zombies and sad zombies and really sad zombies. Think about it, we could be leading a revolution here. I've processed ARMS as a game really slowly. You see it as part of the Switch Direct back in January, and it's the kind of game you accept as a showcase of the Switch's technology. Kinda like 1-2 Switch, but that game was kinda terrible and lackluster, so I'm pleased to report as part of Nintendo sending me a copy of ARMS, please be kind Nintendo, copyright isn't the answer, that it's actually quite a good game. Weird, but good. Playing it back in January, it was easy to get swept up in the magic of motion controls and how you punch to punch. It's like the most intuitive control scheme in the history of video games or something. But there's a bit more refinement involved, which kind of undercuts the motion controls. Effectively, you fight some genetic experiment who has freakishly long arms in a one-on-one confrontation where you thrust your arm forward to punch them in the face. Twisting your arm mid-thrust will curve your punch in that direction, even though this is a part of punching in real life, which takes a little getting used to as a result. You can also charge shots up by holding the dodge or jump buttons, which gives you some firepower. Often literally. Every punch you throw, regardless if it connects or not, charges your rush gauge, so aggressive players rewarded with access to this powerful flurry of attacks at the cost of leaving yourself exposed often if you play this aggressively. It all walks the very familiar line of simple at the outset but with hidden complexity. Something you have to get used to if you want to get any change out of the AI at high difficulties. Luckily, there are plenty of training modes if you need some extra time to get your head around it and if you want to try out a control scheme that doesn't involve flailing your arms around wildly. It's a strange situation with the controls. It's like Mario Kart's tilt controls, but on an even finer line. I'm used to using the two Joy-Cons, so I feel more natural like this, but a couple of times every match, my character will do something that I didn't want. Say, punch when I wanted to move around, or punch when I wanted to grab. Punch with both hands at the same time if you want to grab, by the way. The Joy-Cons are more within the spirit of ARMS, and I'd implore you to try it, at least for a few matches, but I get the sneaking suspicion that ditching the motion controls is far more precise. Also, and I'd hate to go off on a tangent, but weren't people complaining about the Joy-Con grips being really stiff and getting stuck all the time? It's not that hard! Plus goes with plus, be firm with it without trying to break it and you'll be fine. Or use the Pro Controller. That works too. Plenty of characters and modes to play with here. Springman is as standard as a man with springs for arms and toothpaste for hair can be, but at lower health has permanently charged arms, which is handy. Ribbon Girl, who's my girl, has 4 mid-air jumps for dominating the air game. Ninjara can vanish and reappear whenever he blocks a standard attack, which tends to cause a bit of havoc when defending against an opponent's rush. Let's call it a weapon-specific final smash. Master Mummy has a ton of health and hits like a cannonball and can also heal a small amount of health while blocking. Which all sounds overpowered, but he's a big guy, you're gonna be hit a lot. Min Min has noodles for arms and sometimes a dragon for an arm, but other than that she's fine. Mechanica is a normal girl trapped inside of a terrifying robot who can hover for a short period of time. Twintail has magic hair that can slow down time and other assets that I can't quite remember at this point. You only control the bite part of bite and bark, but the little robot dog punches people on his own with his tongue, and sometimes acts as a trampoline for bite. Also, if the dog gets knocked down, it's simultaneously the funniest and saddest thing in the world. Depends what side you're on at the time. Kid Cobra has funky dashes that you can make longer and further by doing something, I'm not entirely sure what, and has one of the wackiest stages in the game with these Beyblade things that I keep falling off of. Helix is a green goo molded into the shape of a man who can weave and duck his way around punches with very little effort. He also has a shield weapon which is the stuff of nightmares. Turns out there's already a tier list. Told you Ribbon Girl was the best. You could just hop into a standard fight between two of these, but ARMS has plenty to offer to keep things interesting. Don't want to worry about punching the other guy? Volleyball with an explosive ball, which feels a little loose mechanically but is fast and frenetic enough to cover up most holes. Like grabbing people? Goddamn basketball where your opponent is the ball. Kind of tactical actually, throwing out a grab leaves you really vulnerable, so it acts as more of a highly specific extension of the main game than anything too wacky. What if 100-man melee was in this game? Yep, that's here too, gets harder as you go, pretty standard stuff. Do you want to be tethered to a teammate? No one wants that, but team battle is still pretty fun. kind of reminds me of Mario Kart 8 at 200cc. The winner often isn't the best player, it's the one who can make sense of all of this chaos. There's also a mode where you destroy targets, but both players share the same set, so you're fighting for the chance to hit these targets more than anything else. Apart from that, there's a training mode, which is the closest thing this game has to a challenge mode. I would have loved some specific scenarios to work towards, but maybe Nintendo could add that in the future. I would tell you all about Grand Prix, but I've been told that I can't discuss any part of that yet, so there it is. Ain't it cool? All of these give you some in-game currency which you can use in a special minigame to get more arms weapons for characters. I would tell you what ranked fights are like, but Overwatch has ruined me in that area. I'm sure they're fine. What I enjoy about ARMS, and it was something I was wondering about since we first saw it in January, is its incredibly relaxed approach to lore and backstories. A natural reaction to seeing two boxers punch each other from the distance with their elongated arms is, what? You look for the explanation as a way of grounding this universe in some kind of reality, and the game stares back blankly. Springman's backstory? He woke up one day and had springs for arms and maybe penis and thought that it was pretty rad. You'd think this lack of information would be detrimental, but I love how little the game cares about that. You're not playing ARMS for the intricate plot, are you? Probably shouldn't be if you are. It feels like someone at Nintendo brought this idea to a meeting and they were having too much fun thinking up ideas for characters and weapons to have some kind of base for all this wackiness. No complaints, absolutely none. This is better. Thinking about it, I reckon you can make a comparison to another new Nintendo IP from the last couple of years, Splatoon. Like ARMS, Splatoon is a simple idea with layers of complexity which acts as a vibrant take on a genre that often dissolves into a paint-by-numbers experience. Splatoon took off in a big way in part thanks to Nintendo's continued support of it, which is why we're getting a sequel later this year. If Nintendo are willing to do the same with ARMS, and they've been promoting it pretty hard so far, they may well stumble onto similar levels of success. It's releasing at a good time. Nintendo have their spotlight at E3 next Tuesday, with ARMS coming out 3 days later on the Friday. Splatoon 2 doesn't come out until the end of July, so that's not in the way. I do worry that ARMS occupies that space in between casual and serious gaming, since it's a little complex for a party game, but too inaccurate, at least with the motion controls, for a competitive fighting game. I don't think it's a quintessential Switch title at this stage, though the upcoming free DLC may change that, but I reckon if you can get it for cheap, or are specifically looking for a better multiplayer than 1-2 Switch, then leap on it when you can. Thanks to Nintendo for sending me a review code and for inviting me to the ARMS event in London, which you can watch on Nintendo UK's channel when they decide to upload that. And of course, thank you lovely people at home for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.